Dave, welcome DT. And
Hey,
there we go. Here he is. We got Dean Borghesani, everyone. Principal Timpanist of the Milwaukee Symphony. Super excited to have him join the show today. Welcome, Dean.
good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, where does the show find you?
I'm in what's called the sunroom in our house. Looks like the lighting's pretty bad. Maybe I should switch. Do you think I should?
Well, it's no big deal if it's I can see you okay.
Okay.
But yeah. So you're in Milwaukee, and I want to start talking about the Milwaukee Symphony. Let's get into it because this was supposed to be an incredibly exciting time for the Milwaukee Symphony, particularly before COVID hit. So, before actually, let me give people some context. So, I've had the privilege of playing with Milwaukee Symphony next to Dean for about 4 or 5 years now. And every time I go up there, it's just amazing the quality of the music and how nice the orchestra is. And so, I've seen a lot of transitions go happening in the orchestra. One of them, they just got a new music director, and they were about to move into a new hall, and then COVID hit, right?
Right.
So, tell us a little bit about that and how is the morale currently in the orchestra? How are you guys doing?
Well, I guess we're okay. So we've been obviously furloughed until well, we'll see what. Who knows when we're going to go back? Earliest that I'm hearing is January. Now with all the numbers rising again, everything, it's like a reset. We're going back to March, so who
Hmm.
knows?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because, the new hall that was projected to open in September, um, it kind of might be a blessing that, it's a lifeline and, because, all the movers and shakers in town want to see this through. They
Hmm.
want the thing to open. So there's,
Hmm.
a lot of investment there. So I think, through that, that's the biggest, wealthy support that we do need.
Hmm.
We're fortunate to have that. So, but, you know, we're still going to, like all orchestras, who's going to have the confidence to come to a concert, you know, especially, with typically an audience is the older population. And are they going to feel comfortable to sit? So it's just, above my
Hmm.
pay grade to, predict what's going to happen at this point. But, it's such a shame. For the longest time, uh, since I've been here, so I started in the fall of 2000. There was talk of a new hall all the way back then, and actually we went to this place and did an acoustic test there.
Hmm.
And I will say, for what I went out and listened to, and our principal percussionist Tom played timpani. It was just a Mozart overture, and I went up in the nosebleed seats. And I'll say that easily, this is going to be one of the finest halls in the country. Blows away Carnegie. The acoustics are perfect. I remember just before the orchestra played, um, a couple of violinists were just, having a soft conversation. I'll say, I could hear every word of that conversation. So no secrets on
Wow.
stage.
Yeah.
So, but then Tom played, it was just a Mozart overture, and magic flute. And it was the richest sound, is the perfect acoustic experience that you need for this to work. And
Hmm.
I think I heard Nick Vald say in a master class that, the hall is 50% of the instrument. And
Yeah.
so in that way, I would still rather hear a mediocre orchestra play in an amazing hall rather than an incredible orchestra play in a terrible hall. It's
Yes.
just, so yeah, like a long time ago, I heard Cleveland Orchestra play in Chicago.
Hmm.
I mean, to be fair, I was sitting up in the nosebleeds,
Yes.
and I just couldn't hear the orchestra, and they were
Yeah.
doing which eight.
Hmm.
Couldn't hear it. They
Wow.
did. I think it was with Long, the pianist. They did the Mendelssohn Piano Concerto.
Hmm.
Couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
but anyways, I'm just so excited. But I just had a feeling back then something's always going to get in the way of this hall opening.
yes.
Just perfect
And then
story.
COVID happens. No,
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be super exciting, man, because I really think that the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra is underrated compared to other orchestras around. Like I think it's a hidden jewel. Like I mean, like really, I came to realize how great it was, of course, by the privilege of playing with you guys. But you know, there's certain things that I didn't know. Like I didn't know it's like just 2 hours away from Chicago, right? I didn't know how cool the city is. It's actually like, you know, it's like a small Chicago, a little smaller Chicago, but it's just like just rarely traffic, amazing coffee shops, like great people. And then the orchestra has this like super warm sound that I agree with you. I cannot wait until you guys start playing in that hall. Because if you really think about some of the big orchestras that have done pretty well, you know, let's say about in the Midwest, we got Detroit and you got Cleveland. I mean, those are great halls they're playing on.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I feel like if the Milwaukee Symphony starts playing there too, it's only gonna get better. So uh, I mean, I have my fingers crossed, and I think it will be incredibly exciting when to get back to a new hall, right? Um, so I have Dave Tarantino here was asking, will the orchestra own the new space?
Oh yeah. We're going to own it, and we're going to be able to rent it out for special occasions. You know, we can present other organizations, and you know, so there's this new grand. Oh, I forget this edition where I guess it's like a incredible atrium, and so it'll be a destination place for like weddings. There's a full kitchen, catering kitchen. There's just going to be so many opportunities for this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super exciting. Also, I mean, you're starting a transition with with a new music director, right? Uh, which actually I've got also the privilege to play under him, and I think it seems like the chemistry is really happening with the orchestra and Ken David. So this is another transition for you, and I was just wondering, like, how has it been to go from someone like Edo the Bard, this um, also super renowned conductor, but I have a feeling he's a little bit different than Ken David. What is the biggest difference between both of them?
I think, you know, is great. You know, we're very fortunate that, you know, we had what, like 10 years with Ado. You know, he's a master. And
Hmm.
so he kind of brought this discipline of good orchestral playing to us. But
Hmm.
I will say, you know, it was rather micromanaged, but I think we learned a lot of, you know, good orchestral playing, you know, check your ego at the door type thing. It's about, you know, being faithful to the score. So I mean, you know, I think I became much more historically informed through Ado of like what the instruments were like in Brahms' time. You know, why the dynamics are written a certain way in the score, and how we got, you know, with a modern orchestra, you know, the instruments are much more powerful. We've got to, you know, use good judgment and taste, you know, in interpreting that. And
Hmm.
so I also, you know, what I really took away is, you know, I used to be one of those timpanists, you know, especially coming out of college, that wanted to add all those extra notes and stuff, and just
Hmm.
crazy with the pedaling. But after the time with Ado, you know, I kind of like appreciating antiques for what they are, warts and all. So let's hear it, what the product was. You know, I
Hmm.
mean, there'd be some things where I just can't take it, and I got to change a pitch or something. You know, obviously like Verdi,
Yeah.
and you know, some of
Hmm.
the Schumann symphonies and Schubert. It's just, you know, you play what's written sometimes, you know, the one player is going to look at you like, what are you doing? Because
Hmm.
now your instrument is so clear and modern, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have that real cloudy sound anymore. So it's, again, using judgment, but I rarely add notes anymore.
Hmm.
It's just, you know, constantly evolving.
Sometimes when you do add them, I get excited, but
I go,
yes.
Everybody, so when I kind of go nuts, with either dynamics, Simone will come up to you, hey, what was your wife here?
Yes, I'm trying to remember. I think there was a role. It was, I think maybe Rosencavalier that you added an A flat to a D. And I think it was in a rehearsal. You hadn't been doing it, and then you suddenly did it, and I got really excited. I'm like, is your wife around here or something? Um, so, anyways, no, that's cool. Something, I mean, I hear you talking about Edo, and I can see that in the orchestra, and I can see that it's just it's like the music, the score, what the masters wrote, kind of comes first, and then Edo, some people may criticize him for micromanaging, but he would really care about precision, right? And you can really see that in with the Milwaukee Symphony. But then now suddenly you guys got um, Ken David Mazur, and it's my impression that he lets you guys be a little more free. Is that correct?
I agree. I gotta say, Ken's got a wonderful ear, and yeah, I think he wants, kind of enjoy the power. He's got, I think he's under 40 years old. I'm not sure, so he's still got youth, and I'm sure he kind of wants to go for things, and that's good fun. And they're since I've been in the orchestra, and actually the whole time, it's always been a very good orchestra. But I think one thing that keeps us a good orchestra, I've always admired just the quality and the process of our audition committees. I think they really know what they're doing. They really hire just incredible players, and that's what I've been used to being around. Ada would kind of put everybody in check, especially like wind players that would want to take big liberties, and no, we're going to do this. But uh, and Ken David, he wants you to be more expressive.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're using good taste, and I don't think there's any wild egos in the orchestra, anyways. It's
Yeah.
just so yeah. I mean, wind playing has gotten, it's not like it was 30, 40 years ago. I think it's much more freer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when's the last time you heard a wind player play a triplet, like a real triplet? It's always, more of a dotted eight.
Da, da. Yes.
Da, 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 da. They hang on that first triplet. Whatever, that's the trend of today, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But sometimes when you gotta just play time, that can really conflict. But I mean, that's me venting.
Yeah, no, but you're talking about the audition process, and somehow you guys have ended with like one of the nicest orchestras I know, and also nicest and one of the best percussion sections I know. I think we don't hear about it enough because I don't think you guys are too active on social media. I think there's a rare presence. I actually am seeing a rare presence of Klieg's. Uh, Klieger is actually checking this out, believe it or not. He's saying Dino.
He's
Um,
a You're awake?
Well, and he's here. I cannot believe it. He's on social media. But how do you guys maintain that, uh, quality, but also nice people, and there's no egos going on, at least in the section.
Oh yeah, we've been so fortunate. Did you ever get to work with our former principal, Tom Wetzel?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, yeah, what a class act, and he just um, he really made an effort to have us. So he did overlap with Rob, but he didn't
Mhm.
overlap with Chris. And I just think everything was so inclusive going out, and we just have each other's back. There's no ego. It's you know what one thing I really like. Hey, if I'm sounding off. And the conductor's not saying anything, but I'm off. Please tell me because I want to know.
Mhm.
If the conductor's not telling you, you got to assume you're right. But and that's been so helpful. But yeah, so whenever there's a vacancy, I imagine in any section, it's just like you want an amazing player, but you don't want a jerk in your section.
Right.
No one wants to work with
Yes.
a crazy ego.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've been very fortunate. We just I couldn't ask for a better set of colleagues.
Yeah, there's I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't know this, but I think Rob just playing a 1 year in San Francisco Symphony, clearly that speaks about, his skills as a player. Chris, he gets called to play with the New York Philharmonic constantly too. So that's, super exciting. And you guys always have this thing, you're not, there's a good channels of communication, which I think is so crucial from, percussion sections to timpanists and vice versa, so that's really cool. So I want to talk a little bit about your teaching. I think another great thing of being so close to Chicago is a lot of the people who have been in Civic, they end up going up and playing for you and Milwaukee. And I think you first had a great relationship with Jason Haheim,
Yeah.
who was recently in the show. He was interviewing the show recently. So I was just wondering, what have you learned from coaching, someone like Jason, and then all the other people you have seen?
Well, Jason, God, he was so fun. So he, it was several years. I got to say, when he first called, and I mean, my impression was he was this engineer that wanted to do what I do and doesn't care if he has to take a cut and pay to do it. So anyways, I'm probably exaggerating things because I've told the story so many times now. I'm starting to believe it. But anyways, he would come up and he's got this engineering mindset and he would record our lessons. But he was so fun to work with. So our lessons would go like 4 hours, and Kathy be walking upstairs, to finally get frustrated, open the doors, or make him go home. But anyways, he kept coming up, and he was also working with John Tafoya as well. So we're two different styles, completely, like how we touch the drum of the stick, and but still, it's about musical ideas and stuff. Where I'm a little bit more of I guess. I was on Jason more for his technique, I guess, like what, a certain sound could be produced because I would hear some things where he was trying to get a certain effect, and I just thought of the way he was going about it wasn't delivering what he wanted. But anyways, so anyway, record the lesson. He would come back the next time with like these charts, like these flow charts, red, green, everything flowing from something that I said. And I'm like, take it easy. Just play louder. You're gonna be fine. But his analytical mind works, but he got better. I mean, when we first started, he had a lot to work out, and got better and better. So over like 3 some years, boy, I knew, and I told him, I said, "You're gonna win the Met." And for me, I think that's awesome. They got the best guy for that job.
Oh yes.
I could never do that job. I don't have the mental, whatever what it takes to stay awake and concentrate for that long. Like a 5-hour opera, I would have been fired in the second act. No problem. It's not for me. It's just, what I do, I think, in the symphony is 10 times easier. We start at 8. We're home a little after 10. I mean, he started at 7:30. He's getting home at 1.
Yeah, he really is the right person for that job. He is such depth in pretty much everything he does. I mean, I had an interview with him recently. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but his articles are super interesting. I encourage everyone to check those out. And he's also having a deliberate practice camp, pay what you can thing. So everyone should check out his website. I think just jasonhaheim.com. But so that's cool. You really witness what he preaches, right? Like his deliberate practice, and you guys were both, would go deep, and I think that also speaks about your generosity as a teacher. I mean, I've played for you, and I know we can go for as long. So anyone who's like really trying to get a job, like they should come and play for Dean. So you have, I mean, you taught Jason, I think maybe Allison has come and played for you too. Recently, Matt Kyburn. So it's a good amount of people.
Yeah, Jacob Littman came up here. I think he
Oh,
got what,
cool.
Charleston. Is that what he got?
Oh, Charlotte. He recently just got Charlotte. Yeah.
Brad, who's the guy in Hawaii? Why can't I think of his name? Good guy, whatever. He's
Yeah.
Hawaii Symphony, but it, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of people. I just love doing this. I almost love coaching more than I do playing at this point. It's just, you gain this knowledge, you want to impart it. It's just, you don't want you want to pass the craft basically, and I like doing that kind of thing.
That's awesome. And so, but you had to get through it. You had to get through, you're winning your job. And I think you have a fascinating story, because I hear through a grapevine that you actually crashed the audition, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were in DC freelancing mostly, right? So you had been taking auditions, you had made some finals, some big finals, and you were making a living as freelancing, maybe working on finance too, if I'm not wrong, or something on the side. But could you tell us a little bit about that? Right. So here we are, Washington, D.C., right before you took the Milwaukee Symphony audition.
Yeah, so it also helps to know that there were 3 auditions. So there were 2 no hires, for the Milwaukee audition. First one I did go to, I think it was probably a year and a half before the third one. It's hard to remember, but I made it to the final 3, and then I got cut. It was like one of those things, start at 8 in the morning, and then after midnight, you're just fried. And it's sort of, well, I got cut anyway. So I went home, and then they had the second audition. I was invited to come back for that, and just a last minute thing. I got hired at Kennedy Center to do ballet, which pays so well. I mean, it's just incredible what that paid back then.
Yeah.
I just, there's no guarantee for the job, so I just, I just took the ballet and skipped. Anyways, and then ended up being a no hire. And then the third audition, I sent my resume in, and it got rejected. Wow. And so it was just like an invite thing. And then so I was fine, whatever.
Wait, but you had made the finals the first time around, right?
Yeah, if you want to call it the finals. So
okay.
There were 3 of us. We were all asked to play again, and they invited 2 back to play with.
Gotcha.
So it's hard to really categorize it as a final, but it was close. And anyways, I got rejected from the third one. I got a letter of rejection. I wish I saved that. Put it up next to a picture of the orchestra. And then what happened is a friend of mine, David Brensilver, I went to school with at Peabody. He called up. It was like 3 days before the audition. He's like, "Hey, you're going to Milwaukee." I said, "No, I got rejected." And he said, "I can't believe, So he's reading off the excerpts. He's like, these are like your best excerpts. Like, you gotta go. You gotta go." So he read them off to me. I'm like, "All right, I think I will." So the very next day, I spent all day practicing, and then I drove and basically. Showed up. Rip, our assistant personnel manager, what a nice guy. He just, I guess it's a Midwest thing. The friendliness of the Midwest is for real. Coming from the East Coast, it's everything. It's a war. But anyways, with Rip, he's like, "Well, it looks like somebody didn't show up in the early group. Why don't you just take that slot?" Cool. Huh. And I played, got through, and then. And then semifinals, and then the finals, and then they came back and invited 2 of us to come back and play a week with the orchestra. And then, so that's basically how it happened. But what I like about it is because my teacher at the time, he was the assistant timpanist of National Symphony, Charlie Wilkinson, he crashed his audition for Symphony. He went as someone else. He went to Cleveland, and he had a buddy that got into the audition and invited a classmate, and then he just like, you don't have a chance. Can I go as you? And he's like, yeah, sure. And they found that out as it was in the finals, but I guess somebody who, that's like, sang the alarm, and the committee was like, we don't care if you played really well. We don't care how you got here. And he ended up getting the job. And what if actually, for what it's worth, Charlie taught me how to teach. He taught me how to practice. I learned.
Could you repeat the last name? Charlie who?
Wilkinson.
Okay.
And just the greatest guy. I mean, a very soft-spoken guy, but just a gifted teacher. So he went to Cleveland. He studied with Richard Weiner as the primary teacher, and I think he had 1 year with Duff. But the thing is, I met. If you want me to go there, like, how did I get to this school playing event? Because Charlie really is the pivotal thing. Because I went and I basically played the Goodman School of Timpani. Was taking auditions. My first one was 1989, the Honolulu Symphony, when Stu Chaffetz got the job. That's where I met Stu. And I just wasn't getting anywhere in auditions for like 5 years. I'm like, what's going on? And then I finally got a lesson with Charlie. I called him because it seemed like at that point, 9 out of 10 auditions were being filled with people that had pedigree through the Cleveland School of Music. And so I'm like, well, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And well, everything. So I called Charlie. He came over to the house, and I played for him, doing my thing, cross sticking and all that, pinkies off the stick and all that. And after I play, I look over. He's like, "Oh my God, we got to change everything." So I have a master's degree at this point, and he's like, "If you want to work with me, we got to go back to square one." And I'm like, "Oh God."
Jeez.
And but it's. Long story short, it's not really about the system. It was about the productivity and quality in the practice room, which I didn't know, especially in undergrad and graduate school. I didn't know how to practice properly. And so Charlie really taught me that with the recording, the mirrors. The only thing that I kind of want to give myself credit, but like call it the Borghesani method, but if I'm wrong, if someone else has it, please let me know. I call my method the 25-25-10. What that means, I'm spending, so if you got a big audition list, I'll put it up on the wall in front of the timpani, and I'm going to go from top to bottom, recycle. But I'm going to spend 25 minutes per excerpt that has exercises devoted to each excerpt. And no matter where I am, so this is a long-term strategy, like getting ready for an audition or just getting better at the excerpt, because you want to touch base with every excerpt. This is my method. I don't like just going to a hard excerpt and working on it until it's done. No, it'll be done in weeks from now. It'll be perfect. So go from slow to fast, take your time with goals, but you got to have exercises based on why the excerpt is an excerpt in the first place. What are the challenges? So then 25 minutes is up, go on to the next excerpt. And then that's up, 10-minute water break. Clear your mind, because you got to understand, so back in the 90s when I was doing this system, I freelanced, so all my work was at night. So I had all day to practice. So it was like easy to do a 8-9 hour practice session. But if you're doing just 50 minutes, 10-minute break, your mind is clear. You do not get fatigued. And so I swear by this system. You get quickly so fast, but you're maintaining everything. Nothing is mediocre. Everything gets to a high level. So when I started doing that, I immediately started advancing in auditions. Having that instant feedback of recording. So you play it one time. You don't play it again because you're wasting time. You're teaching yourself how to make mistakes if you play it twice without recording. You got to record it, play it back, get the information. what happened. And so it's just the height of being productive.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. No, that's super cool, Dean. And I don't recall you telling me exactly this was your method, but this is I literally just wrote it down. Like this kind of a selfish endeavor, me interviewing all these great timpanists and percussionists, you know? So it's like for everyone watching, right? This kind of gives you permission of, you know, this is a great system because, you know, you have enough time to go in depth to improve the exercise a little bit. It's enough, right? That you listen, you observe what you need to work on, you work on it, and then you move on, right? Um, I have to mention I've heard and I've done what I've done before is the freer method, which is like a 10-minute thing. But oftentimes, like when you have 10 minutes, I feel like I'm running out of time constantly, right? So maybe that's something people can consider, you know, maybe later on in your preparation, once you have done a lot of the technical work, maybe you can do a little bit shorter periods of time to get through more if you're time constrained, right?
You know, it's believe it or not, there were a couple auditions I couldn't believe, you know, Beethoven violin concertos on. It's like, okay, why? So so I'm not going to spend 25 minutes on an excerpt like that to go dong 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 dong. It's, you know, okay, but where I am covering that base is I should have prefaced my method with. So in the morning, I would get up and do a warm up. That warm up is devoted solely to technique. So it's just quarter notes, you know, looking in the mirror to a tempo like I'll have it metronome on 75, quarter notes to eighth notes, you know, the 16th notes to 32nd notes, watching for perfect technique at all dynamics. So height in the mirror, you will any lumps and bumps, you'll see it in the mirror, you know, for absolute perfection in technique. It's all in here. So I would have like 3 different mirrors set up that I could see, one further away, 2 close up. And so, I mean, I figure, is my competition doing that? Probably not. So, you know, when it came down to the last few auditions, you know, I would show up and you know, if there were 100 players, I was no longer intimidated anymore. And because I figure there's no way these people worked as hard as I did. Just no way. Maybe 5 or 4 people did. And that's all I got to worry about. You know, people show up with their really awesome sticks and their fancy case that can be intimidating. You're just like, oh, they must be really good. But as you know, we're very fortunate in the timpani world. You show up to an audition, it's like a gang of, it's a cool hang. Everybody's so, you know, happy to see you and wish you good luck as you're going off to play. And it was just the coolest time. You know, I got great friends from just the auditions. You know, yeah. It's, you know, very fortunate. I don't know if other instruments are like this. You know, because afterwards, if you didn't get anywhere, the Losers Club would get together and go to the bar and just have a great time. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, this is so cool. All this stuff is so useful. I'm so glad you share. I love this 25, 25, 10 technique, right? And we can go 2 different routes now. Hopefully, we'll have time for both. One of them is I want to talk about how you know, when you were talking about your change of technique, I'm kind of remembering how you changed drums recently too. So you have had this open mind to, you know, explore different sounds, what works. So what worked for your auditions was like, okay, maybe going a little bit more Cleveland in style from the Goodman style, right? And then you got the audition, you're playing on light drums, and now you're playing on these ringers that you love, and you love the sound. And tell us a little bit about why you did that change, and yeah.
Okay, so you know, when my first set of drums were a set of Goodmans, and it was, you know, I actually really liked them, but when I played that system, it worked really well. In my mind, it did. And then when I started studying with Charlie, it just seemed like they didn't complement the system of sitting down, because the pedal in relationship to the lip of the bowl are rather closer. So your thighs would be kind of in the way because they're not angled down to the pedal like on the light drum. And so getting around a set of Goodmans while sitting, is a little more prohibitive. And I always like the sound of the drums. That 24-inch drum I had on my Goodman set was just incredible. Just the best one. A guy named Matt Drum, I think he lives in Washington. He owns them. What a great name. Anyways, so I hope he's happy with them. And anyways, so I got my set of lights, I want to say around 94 ish, 95, something like that. Because it took like 2.5 years for them to be, delivered from the order. They always say 6 months, no, delay. But it was always worth it when you finally got it. And so they were more complementary to this style. I've always thought, especially on lights, when I would take auditions and I was playing at the beginning, like Goodman sticks, we didn't really have many options of what was available. There's just like Goodman and Vic Firth. And then you had the Cleveland School, which made their own, wrapped their own. So you're really getting into, really developing your own and controlling your own sound rather than a store-bought sound. And anyways, I gotta say, in my days when I was at Peabody, because this relates to the Ringer Timpani, I would go see the Baltimore Symphony play, and that was Dennis Kane, the incredible timpanist of Baltimore Symphony. And I think he studied with Goodman and Vic Firth and somebody from Eastman at the time. I forget who that might have been. Maybe Bill Street. I'm not sure. But I was always blown away with Dennis and just his magnificent sound. And now I have his drums. I always would leave his concerts like, geez, those are the best sounding timpani I've ever heard. I mean, he just get this incredible sound. It seemed like there was no breaking point in terms of power. They just kept delivering. If you got it, it'll give it. And he passed away in 2012, and I was able to purchase his drums and through his wife, and then I had him shipped to Mark Guthrie, and he did a marvelous job with them. And so Mark got him. He says, "I got to tell you, these are the best sounding ringers." It's something about the bowls. He said they're like a different shape, like of a certain vintage. And so I was just so excited to get him. And so I have it in my memory. So my first concert, you were standing right behind me doing the Debussy. Oh, what a disaster I had, because it's a good story. Remember the opening? When you get to that D, B, G sharp, ding, 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 and then you pedal to the F. And I was just, because I'm so not used to these pedals coming from the light drums. And then in the performance, I got it. I'm like, oh, thank you. I got the F and the little cute swell, and then it's there, and I'm just sitting there with confidence. Well, I didn't realize how sensitive that pedal on the low drum. I'm sitting here, and then all of a sudden you hear that. Remember, I went down.
I remember that. Yeah. What happens? I was like, oh, is there a ratchet in the Debussy piece? So I'm just kidding. Well, no, yeah, that's great. But yeah, man, I mean, those drums are huge. So you were just open-minded enough. It's a great story. You remember the sound, and for this hall, Milwaukee was playing it until recently. It's a big hall, hard to fill. The orchestra is kind of a MIDI orchestra, I would say. So I think those drums is just like, whoa, I think you're really right. You really can go for it. Give it a lot of sound. It doesn't really break. So.
Yeah, and also I had to change my sticks because everything I was using before was mostly the on my lights, like the Herbert sticks and some other bamboo sticks. And I just found they didn't deliver what I want on the ringers. So I'm using, and I'm sure everybody's gonna lose respect. I'm just using the Tim Genis, the cheap sticks, the wood terms. Yeah, and to me, I just love the way they sound. It's just like this velvety sound. It's very blending. Yeah, I can get that. I wouldn't ever use them on an audition because you're going to hear all the imperfections of the way the felt actually touches the drum, and it's audible behind the screen. But it's really not off the stage. But the other blending effects of it just provides a lot of warmth and bottom. and maybe a little less articulation, but I let the other instruments provide the articulation. Matt Strauss told me that one time, because I guess the old timpanist of Houston, mentioned that, and that always like related to me, what Matt said. Like, let the other instruments provide the articulation, and it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I do like about the ringers. They're not articulate drums like lights are. I mean, the problem with lights sometimes, like a D on a 26, no matter how fast you roll, you hear you can really hear the individual beats rather than just a blend of butter.
Right. It doesn't ring as much yet. So you really embrace that mentality. Once you're doing the job, you really are doing your best. It's not about, oh, I have to be super even every single time anymore, but it's, enhancing the orchestra. So I have seen that. So that's super cool. But so I also wanted to we talked briefly about your audition at Milwaukee Symphony, right? But you're not the first person to be in the show who has taken many auditions, right? And I think you were against like David Herbert in San Francisco in finals. And were you ever close to saying like, okay, I'm almost done. I'm done with this. This is really tough. I mean, you auditioned for a few years before you got Milwaukee, right?
Yeah, well, it was 11 years of auditioning. So 1989 to 2000, think of it that way. And, what is there, an average like 2.5 auditions a year? So some will have more and some will have none. And so, yeah, it was 30 auditions for me. And I think this was number 30. It's just sort of, it was my passion. It's what I always wanted to do. It's almost like, embarrassed to say it was my identity, but it was just what I wanted to do. But I also had another passion in the 90s. It was trading stocks. Dave Herbert and I, we would constantly just email each other. We were all on high-tech stuff. And
yes.
I mean, really, I assume he was doing well. I was doing really well. But a monkey could have done what I did. I mean, it didn't matter what you were investing in. It was just going up. I didn't have out, and I was making good money. It was just so fun. Those are different times. But anyways,
sorry, really quick. Kliger, I mentioned before, mafia investment strategies, quote unquote finance, right? There we go, quote unquote finance. Yeah, it's kind of like this is kind of happening right now, where some of these tech stocks can only go up right now. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to mention Kliger's comment.
Yeah. Anyways, there was a point. It was do you recall what year it was, the San Francisco Symphony, when Dave got it? Was it 96, 97? Well, it was one of those years. And that was, I mean, I worked so hard for that audition. And I drove my drums from DC to San Francisco. But I'd never worked so hard. I mean, so I along the way, I think I stopped and played for Tim Adams, and then to Omaha, and I stopped and stayed over a couple days with Dwight Thomas, which this guy, if you don't know about him and you want to learn the art of clearing a head, Dwight, even Coy Duff told me, he says, nobody's in that league. He says, I'm good at it, but nobody's ever been in that league. Dwight Thomas, so he just retired a couple of years ago from Omaha. Yeah, his timpani were like piano strings, just a ding. And anyway, so I stopped and we pulled my drums out of the van, set them up in his living room. I stayed there a couple of days, played for him, and God, and he tuned them up. He says, look, I can't guarantee you're going to win the audition, but you'll have the best sounding drums there easily. And it's kind of so fast. So anyways, after the audition, so I mean, I made it to the final four, and then got cut. And anyways, like several months later, this is the way I remember. So if Dave Herbert has a different memory, please correct me. I get an email from him, or did he call me? One of the two. He says, hey, the committee liked the sound of your drums the best. Not the player, obviously. But and I told him what I got. And I think it might have to do something to do with him going to these, incredible lights that he had custom made and stuff. And I also told him if he was getting two sets, mix and match them, get 28 25 and then 29, 26, and then, 24 and 23 perhaps. I think he might have done that. I'm not sure. But, he had such great resources. I mean, he just went crazy with it. And I mean, those are obviously some of the most beautiful looking drums. I've yet to hear him live. I have no excuse. I mean, he's only 90 minutes away.
Well, maybe when things get back to normal, huh?
Yeah. Now, was there another part of the question that I didn't answer? Sorry.
Well, no. I was saying, was there ever a time you were like, oh my God, all these auditions I've taken, really close to being like enough,
Well, get this. So shortly after San Francisco, which I did well, I mean, so if you do well, you want to add something like, especially a major orchestra like that, put that on your resume, that you advance to the finals, like audition experience, whatever. So I finally had something big. It was the first big orchestra, which actually led to opportunities freelance. And then I started getting called by National Symphony to be an extra. And even though I had lived there all this time, it's sort of like it's a catch-22. How do you get the experience if you can't get the experience?
Right.
So, and so that kind of, they felt more comfortable to hire me just as extra and stuff like that. But anyways, the auditions, shortly after that was the Columbus Symphony audition. And I sent my resume in, rejected. And so I, called and said, look, it just did well in San Francisco. We don't care. You're not coming. I called Cloyd Duff. He called on my behalf. Wow. And then, so he calls me back and he says, look, I know everybody in the business and I know all about the business. I don't know anybody in Columbus, is what he said. He's like, they're not listening to me. But he tried. I was so grateful that he would do that on my behalf. It didn't work out. I crashed the audition, made the finals, and then Ben Ramirez got it. And but I just knew at that, my chops were just so hot. I mean, I knew all the extras. I was ready to go. But, you got to be careful on, the burnout factors. Like, God, the auditioning for so much and doing the same thing over, hard to keep fresh and stuff like that and maintain it. So I guess just before the third Milwaukee audition, I'm like, so I interviewed for Legg Mason financial group. And so basically what they wanted was they like the fact that you bring a high level of something in your background, like achieving excellence in something that you're at a high level of something. So I think financial industries are attracted to people like that. And there's like, so we want to send you to school in Baltimore. It's like a 2-year program for their program. And but they did say, you have to give up everything and devote 100% to this. And I was like, oh God, can I really do this? And then I was just about to make that decision. And then the Milwaukee thing happened. So I didn't go.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you learned some stuff from those investing years. I guess you mentioned anybody could have done well, but I think it's probably good for everyone, especially in this business, to be comfortable with investing and just understand that a little bit. And I actually think you recommended a book for me a few years ago that I think is super useful. I'm forgetting the name, but the idea is you want to be invested pretty much in most things, right?
Was it Truth About Money?
Yes, something. Yeah, I think so.
Everybody should get that book. It's have to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. So great. So we got about 10 minutes. Let's see if anybody has any questions here. If anybody has any questions on the chat, please let us know. Meanwhile, I have a couple of other quick questions actually. So one of the things we have talked about before is that you think that some pieces in the repertoire are being forgotten, right? Now that we're talking publicly to other people, like you were mentioning, I think it's some Respighi pieces that you think are pretty amazing that are not played enough, right?
Yeah. So I've served on the artistic liaison committee for many years in the orchestra. It's called the ALC. And so they'll provide feedback from musicians, artistic comments to management and stuff. So I think you were on that concert. So we finally did Wispy Pines of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time we had done that before was last year. And then we had done it in 2004. I mean, this piece, you know, audiences go crazy. It's like, how can a piece be called a classic if they're not played? It seems like, you know, and when we had Ado here, you know, bless his heart, but, you know, all we did was Rachmaninoff. I mean, it's like every other season we did the symphonic dances. I'm so tired of the saxophone solo. Good God. And I mean, we played it well, but there are other things to do. Since I've been here, we have not played one time the Carnival Overture by Dvorak.
Wow.
Not once. We took it on like upstate tour, which you've been on, but we've not done it on a subscription. We were supposed to do it, I think, this spring, but then obviously the COVID thing. But hopefully we'll get it back on. But there are a lot of classics. So you had Cynthia on last year. Now I remember when she did her concerto, there was, I think it was Lieutenant Cagey. So I read the review of her concert. You know, it was glowing, obviously, but they, in that review, I believe it mentioned the last time they played Lieutenant Cagey was 30 some years before. There's a lot of classics that are not classics anymore because we don't do them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a kind of source of frustration. I put together a giant list of what my orchestra has not done and presented to management. And yet, to their credits, they started doing a lot of these pieces. So
yeah, I think people. I mean, there's a lot of thought about programming, especially right now, making it more diverse, etc. But another thing that people should think about is not just like, oh, let's just do Beethoven 5 every single year, but you know, all these great composers have all their great pieces, right? So yeah, I agree with you. Okay, we got a couple of questions. Could you say the name of the book again?
The Truth About Money by Rick Edelman. Ricedelman.
Yeah. Cool. And now Leonardo Soto from the Houston Symphony is how many auditions did you crash?
I think two. And I made the finals in both of them. But, you know, don't just think you can just go crash. You know, you're just like starting out. I was ready. You know, I was also frustrated, you know, that in the audition when I won it here, I heard about all these students just of the good studios, you know, like Paul Yanchus's studio, you know, but they didn't have any experience, but they were obviously, you know, good pedigree, but they got invited. I'm like, no, I'm showing up. I'm crushing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, everyone should exercise discretion for that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes the process can be kind of flawed in that respect. I think it's getting better in certain ways, but sometimes still can be kind of flawed. Okay, maybe a couple of rapid fire questions before we're done. What's your least favorite timpani excerpt to play?
Oh, easy. That is the what's it called by Finlandia. Jesus, what a horrible piece! Finlandia, the Sibelius.
Oh,
a horrible piece, and you burn 1,000 calories, and then you got to take a repeat and do it again. It's just miserable.
But you guys asked it in your audition, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't remember actually having to play it, so I might not be in this interview today if I had to play that. I never liked the way I play. It's just, you know, it's hard to get a good stick that sounds good in the rolls and then articulate in the rhythm. It's just, I just don't think it says much about a timpanist anyways. You know, there's better excerpts to ask to get information. Like, I don't understand why a committee would ever ask Mozart, the 39 opening, what are you listening for? Every committee's got some different idea that you can't second guess the committee. Keep time playing to, you know, in tune. But I will say, you know, 100 people show up to the audition, probably 70 some are not going to be able to tune the fourth correctly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Got a question for Robert Klieger. He asked, "What is Dean practicing these days?"
Rob, I'm doing a lot of snare drum. I'm doing rudiments, and my hands are getting better. And yeah, because I mean, I have a whole set of timpani. I'm probably on those twice a week, but I try and do the snare drum stuff at least every other day, if not every day, just a couple hours.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, I actually thought that playing rudimental snare drum really makes you a better timpanist. Like I got that from Mark the Milwaukee. He's a great timpanist, and I've seen Ed Stefan doing. I don't know, you're not on social media, but he puts out these videos. It's amazing. His chops are great. So, uh,
Really?
yeah, that's cool. Okay, we have about 2 minutes maybe left. I was wondering, is there anything else you want to leave us with, Dean?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So good to see you. I gotta say, my orchestra loves having you play
Oh,
with them.
thanks, Dean.
I gotta tell you, it's as fun as it is. It's intimidating, having you behind me like a real timpanist back there. Like, oh, he knows everything that I'm doing.
No, man, I gotta tell you, it's been a great learning experience. I mean, it just, I think everyone who plays in a major orchestra would agree that the learning curve, even when you start playing with these major orchestras, is, you're still learning because it's not a process you can do all the time. And I've learned a ton by watching you play. I mean, your placement sometimes it's just like I don't know how you do it, but it's something that takes time, right? Like just being able to breathe and place things with the orchestra.
Yeah, if you don't get the experience, how are you going to know? I mean, so it took me a long time to really start watching the concert master instead of just mowing them down playing Dr. Beat. It doesn't work. Wind players, they can't play like that. They got to breathe, breathe a phrase. So what section are you playing with? Well, breathe like you're in their section. And so when I started doing that, especially like brass and stuff, and it started really coming together. But yeah, you are in the back, so listen to what the strings are doing, play, with them in terms of time. I has really helped, and then please get feedback in terms of, if there's any way you can hear your recordings, you'll hear the truth. It's not always pleasant. The
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah, no, and that's the case. But again, I'm gonna say great things about the Milwaukee Symphony again. Sometimes I hear those recordings that are created for feedback, and I'm like, man, you guys should put these recordings out. And I think I've told you this a few times. Yeah, I wish there were more like published recordings by the Milwaukee Symphony. You playing symphony, so
My favorite while you were with us was the Mueller 3 with Ado's last concert. I think that was some of the best I've ever heard the orchestra.
yeah,
All 2 or 3 performances, God, they were incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, Dean, thanks so much again. It was really fun chatting with you. Hopefully, we'll see you in real life on the stage playing again soon. And to everyone watching, thanks so much. And we'll see you guys next Saturday. Really quick, I may have some great guests next Saturday. So just be watching the social media.